Hello and welcome to today's Tips and Tricks call. I am Tim Sessions, the Director of Client Services, and this is a call or a webinar. I always call it a call. I should call it a webinar because that's what it is. But this is a webinar that I look forward to every single month because what it does is it challenges me as an Aptivada employee to dig out some of those features that might be lesser known within Aptivada to share with you all on this call. So I hope that they're helpful to you. I'm grateful for everyone for being here, and it looks like we have everyone trickling in now. So we'll just jump right into the agenda. Today's an exciting one. We have a few new features that I wanted to point out to you on this call, and I'm looking forward to answering some questions about these features if any come up. With that said, make sure that you use the Q&A section of the Zoom call to be able to ask your questions. The reason being I'm flying solo today, so it's easy for me to field those questions in the Q&A section. I will take a look at, looks like we have somebody raising their hand there. Maybe they're just testing it for when we announce a winner here. But anyway, I'm flying solo today, so it'll help me archive the questions and make sure that I'm answering the right one. So if you have a question about anything, go ahead and ask it in the Q&A section, and I'll keep an eye on that to make sure it's relevant to what we're talking about in the moment, or if it's something that can be answered later. Now, with that being said, let me go ahead and get this U-link into the chat. So the chat's different than the Q&A here, but I'm going to toss the U-link here in the chat so that you have an opportunity to win $100. We do this at the end of each call. And flying solo here, please bear with me as I man all the buttons. So you should see the link to enter in the chat. Let me know if there's a problem with that for the giveaway. And then of course, at the end of the call, we're going to be handing out a survey that you can answer to let me know how the call went. We do read those, we do take them seriously. Good feedback, bad feedback, it's all welcome. All right, so I do have a screenshot up of the national promotion calendar for 2022. We are really focusing on making sure that you all know that that is available, ready to use. It has all the prize details, when the run times are, when the deadlines to sign up are, and all of this information is available at ideas.aptivada.com. If you haven't visited our Idea Studio there, make sure you have that bookmarked. Again, that's ideas.aptivada.com, where you can find this schedule, you can download it, you can also see what promotions are live to sign up for to implement on your various accounts. So just making sure that I pointed that out. Another thing that's exciting is that every month we throw in new templates. As you can see, we've thrown in a lot of Halloween ones that are available now to use. Now these templates are for sweepstakes, they're for galleries, they're for our popularity brackets if you have access to that. Surveys, quizzes, polls, you name it, we have templates for it. I think, I haven't counted it up, but we're well over 600 templates now. So hopefully there's something for everyone. As those templates get added, they do get tagged so you can search for those. Also, something that we've really made a push for is to make sure that all of our quizzes actually have some placeholder questions and answers that you can just kind of plug and play and throw in there. If you're in there and you find a quiz that doesn't have any questions or answers that are plug and play, please let our support team know. And they will make sure to get those questions. But as we add these new templates, we do try to get those quizzes updated with questions and answers there. All right, let's just jump right into it. We have made a few updates that I want to point out. Very quick updates, but I just feel like they need a little bit of an explanation. Now, I don't know how many of you on this call utilize notification emails, But notification emails are an email that you put in the setup of your contest. You can see it here on my screen. And the email, let's say I wanted to be notified every time somebody entered a contest. Well, I could put in my email address in that notification email setting or section. And every time that somebody enters that contest, then I get notified of that they've entered, and it can also deliver the information to my inbox of what has been entered. Well, we understand that there might be some privacy or data concerns in those email inboxes, with that information being sent to an email address. So what we've done at the admin level is we've added a new permission to allow for editing notification email data. And what that does is it makes a checkbox visible under the more settings on a promotion here. And I'll probably open up the admin because it'll make a little bit more sense in the admin, but it will give the option to control whether or not you hide or include email user data in those notification emails. So jumping into the dashboard, for me, it's enabled. So if I go to more settings, then by default, it's actually going to be unchecked, because before we made this update, as long as there was a notification email address in that notification email section, then that data would get sent over. But if you're an admin that has the permission to control this, you can actually choose to hide email notification user data, meaning that if somebody enters this contest, I'm going to get an email that that an entry was received. However, it's not going to give me any of that user data. Now, in a contest, that's kind of not the best example, because our hope is that hundreds of thousands of millions of people are entering your contests. So you don't want to get an email every single time somebody enters a contest. Well, where this notification email really comes in handy is, let's say in surveys, somebody enters a survey, you can get notified. Where it really comes in handy though is, let's say you have a gallery running where it's important that those uploaded submissions get approved as quick as possible. Well, that notification email is a good tool to let you know that that somebody has submitted a picture. Now, of course, from an admin standpoint, maybe the person managing those pictures, you just don't want that information in their inbox, so you can actually hide that information from being ported over. Hopefully I explained that well. This one is hot off the press. In fact, I think it was released within a few hours of this call here. So it was something that I kind of threw in to the tips and tricks call last minute, but I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of this feature. All right, and so jumping into what I really wanted to talk about on this call is an update that we made last week. And now when we push these updates, just so you're aware, if you're like, well, why don't I ever know about these updates? At the start of every month, we release a release notes document, and that can actually be found on our help.aptivada.com page, and you'll see an archive of all the different releases and bug fixes that we've made in the previous month. So, if it's a big enough push, if it's a huge update, of course, we're going to make an announcement around that specific update. But some of these little enhancements that we create, we try to cover them on these tips and tricks calls, but we also release them in our release notes as well. Okay, so this one, however, is kind of worth spending some time on. And what it is it's a time zone syndication update. And the reason why I wanted to focus this call on the update is to make sure that the definition of what we did is kind of clear. So if you haven't already, on the screen, we've added a feature called dynamic time zone. So what that means is, when this feature is selected, the promotion schedule respects the time zone of the accounts it is syndicated across. So for example, when this feature is checked, if a contest is set to start at 9 a.m. on an account in New York City, it will not start until 9 a.m. on an account until 9 a.m. on an account in Los Angeles. So as you can kind of see, I like to call it a rolling time zone, but we went with dynamic time zone in our definitions there. So what this only affects accounts where the contest has been syndicated and selected as hosted. If you remember, the difference between a hosted template or a hosted contest and a template is that hosted means you maintain that control at the top level. So you'll actually only see this dynamic time zone feature if you've created a contest that has been syndicated. So let's dive into this. Let me jump back into the admin here. And so just to start from the top here, let's say I want to create a promotion that goes live at 9 a.m. in New York City. Let's say I have a national, I'm an admin of accounts all across the United States. So I create the promotion. I'm going to create a sweepstakes. I'm going to say that it's hosted, and I'm just going to call it best weekend ever and create the promotion there. Okay, so because it's hosted, I now see this option of dynamic time zone, and it says based on child account time zone. So as I syndicate this across my different accounts, if they're in different time zones, then this schedule that I set here, if I want it to go live at 9 a.m. and let's say it ends this Thursday at 11:59 p.m. with dynamic time zone scheduled, then let's say this account A here is in New York City, account B here is in Chicago, and account C here is in Salt Lake City. Okay, so it's going to start at 9 a.m. in New York, then 9 a.m. in Chicago, and then 9 a.m. in Salt Lake City. So I'm sure your heads are already starting to go to what this could be used for. You know, let's say you have a nationally syndicated show that starts at different times throughout the country, and you want this contest tied to that and to be live when that gets announced in specific time zone. So that's one feature. Now we took it one step further, and we have also added it to our keyword plus field. Now, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck dynamic time zone, because let's say we want this contest to be live at 9 a.m. in New York City, but with this unchecked, it'll actually be live at 6 a.m. in Los Angeles. So that's the difference between having it checked and not. So with this unchecked, we could jump into adding a field. We've added it to the keyword plus field. And if you jump into your fields and for some reason you're not seeing the keyword plus field added to your account, please let us know. It should be available for everyone, but if for some reason you're not seeing keyword plus, please let us know. Now, the difference between keyword and keyword plus fields in our field list of fields that you can add to a contest is that keyword plus allows you, let's see, do I need to have that checked here? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Let me just back up here. Again, this is a newer feature too, so I'm learning along with you guys. Okay, so I can have dynamic time zone unchecked. Apologies for that little hiccup. I didn't see it in the upper right-hand corner here. Okay, so back to what I was saying. The difference between keyword and keyword plus is that keyword plus allows you to schedule the start and end times of when keywords are live on a specific promotion. So we've also added the dynamic time zone option to the keyword plus field. So if the keyword here was Tim and it starts at 9 a.m. and ends at, let's say, 10 a.m. on today's date, and this keyword is, I'll just say VADA for Aptivata. We want easy keywords here. And this one would start then at 10:05 and end at, I won't mess with this too much. I think you get the picture here. 10:06 and ends at 11. All right. So with dynamic time zone selected, then with this being a syndicated keyword plus contest, that means that the keyword Tim will be live at 9 a.m. in each of the time zones that this keyword is syndicated across. Okay. So with all that being said, jumped around quite a bit, threw out a lot of information. Are there any questions that you may have concerning the functionality of this? If there aren't, I'm going to give myself a huge pat on the back because I know that that's a lot of information, but our goal is to make it as simple as possible. Now, we were actually inspired by an application that some of you have access to called the Countdown application. This is a dedicated keyword contest application. So you can double check to see if you have access to that. But basically, it has the exact same functionality where it asks for which time zone should these keywords be live in. And when it says child account time zones, that means it respects the time zone of the child account that it is syndicated across to. If you select my account time zone, then that means it's going to be static, or at 9 a.m. in New York, it's going to go live at 6 a.m. in Los Angeles. So looks like we're getting some feedback here about the update. Glad to hear it. I'm glad it's a great update, and I'll definitely pass that on to the team. So let's jump back to see where we're at in the presentation. We did kind of get through everything that I wanted to cover on today's tips and tricks call pretty quickly here. If there are any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.